Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is my fourth video in this series where we're learning Python using Pycharm. And basically in this video what we're going to be doing is now playing with like loops. So let's see here. Let's delete this code so far. So what is a loop? So we know now that we can do like if statements to branch the direction that code is going in. But sometimes it's not about do this or do that, it's do this multiple times right now. And that's where a loop comes in. Now in most programming languages you'll have a while loop and then you have a for loop which can work in multiple ways. Python kind of simplifies this where there's a while loop and then the for loop is more of a iterator than it is a traditional loop. So you don't have that sort of that three-part for loop that you do in other languages. Okay, so basically your traditional loop, let's say I want to, we'll create a variable called loops. And we'll say we're going to want to loop 8 times. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called a counter. We can call it whatever we want, but we'll call it counter. That counts how many loops that we've done. So we'll start with 0. Okay, so counter is 0, loops is 8. So we're going to say while counter is less than loops. Okay, so then do the following. So just like any other kind of thing, it's going to take a colon and then we have to do a tab. And we're just going to say print counter. Okay, so what this is going to do is going to sit there and say, okay, 0 less than 8, yes, print counter, and then at the end of each time we have to add 1. So we're going to say counter equals counter plus 1. Okay, save. So that way, so that first time it then becomes 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So at the end it'll have looped 8 times. And see there we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops. But you see the no number 8 because technically once the number counter becomes 8, 8 is not less than 8, so it doesn't loop that time. So basically, long as this is true, it does the thing and just keeps doing it. But you have to make sure that the logic's there, that if this eventually becomes false, because then you can accidentally create an infinite loop and it'll just keep looping forever. Okay, I could also do this differently. Let's say I just wanted to count 1 through 8. I can change counter to 1, so it counts 1 first. And then I'll just change this to less than or equal than loops. And that should just count 1 through 8. And there you go. Okay, but that's it. That's all a while loop is. It just does the code in the loop. And inside that code, I could have as much code as I want. So this could be like a really long, pretty much all games are just big loops. Okay, just basically you push an arrow, it responds and says, okay, well, when you push an arrow, then it'll run a bunch of if statements depending on what you pushed. And I'll say, okay, well, you pushed the button left, so let's move the character to the left. And then it goes back and loops again, looks for your next command, and just keeps looping until it's done. Okay. Cool. So what if you wanted to? What if you didn't have like a counter here? Like if let's say I forgot this, but I don't want the loop to run forever. What you could also do is put in just a break command. You should be able to just put in break. In this case, the loop will only run once because the loop will get to break and then it'll just stop. So whenever it hits break, it'll just stop the loop. So let's save that. Let's do this and see, it just does the loop once. Okay, so that's another way, and that's usually what happens in a game. Basically, you keep doing stuff, and then you hit the exit command, and that breaks the loop that the game is in. That's constantly asking for your input. Okay, just so you can kind of think through sort of what is the sort of the programming structure of a game. So that's one loop. Okay. Now the other type of loop is called a for loop. Okay. So first, let's just show you a couple things. One, there's something called a range you can create. So let's say I want to do this here. I want to say my range. Okay, so this is my variable, my range. And I want it to be a range of numbers between 1 and 8. Okay, I can do this. Okay, it doesn't quite like it, but we'll see here. let's give it a shot. Okay. And then I'm going to print my range. Because usually when you do the 2 dots, it generates a range between one number and the other number. So let's give it a shot. Do I need to get rid of this? Let's do a quick search. Okay. Python range operator. Okay. Oh, okay. I now remember. Okay. It isn't an operator in... Here you just have a function. Gotcha. Cool. It's in other languages where you have the dot dot operator. Okay? Again, this is what happens when you start learning too many programming languages. Okay, so let's go back over there. So in this case, you just have a function. So it would just be range 1, 8. Let me just make sure I got the syntax right. So here, range 5. Goes here, start, stop. Okay. Not going to worry about the step part. That just means like how many to skip between each one. So I just want to range 1 through 8. So that should do the job. Range 1 through 8. Let's see here, the syntax again. Range 5. Boop, 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 boop. So we created the range. Let me just go over here. Okay. But a range exists. So we can see that here that it created a range 1 through 8. We console log the range. Okay, so you should be able to iterate over that, and that's where the reason and that's the whole point of me doing that. Because now I can do this. So I can say for every number, I forget if it's in or of, in my range, and this is how our for loop works in Python. So what it does, it's going to loop over my range, which should be numbers 1 through 8, and the number each loop it'll be referred to as num. So then what we're going to do is we're going to print num. Okay, and then let's try that out and see if that works the way I think it should work. And it does. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but it counts up to the range. So when we use the range operator, it doesn't include the top number. So if I want a number 1 through 8, I have to do 1 through 9. There we go. And the reason I did it that way is a lot of people will do the example and they'll just do the range function here, which you can do. So I can just do this. For num in range 1 through 9. And do it that way. And it still works. I just wanted to illustrate that technically this is a separate function than using the for loop. The for loop, you can put any kind of iterable item here. So a range is one iterable. Iterable just means you can loop over it. Okay? Another iterable, which is one you'll probably be using a lot, is called a list. And a list basically is just a collection of data in square brackets. Okay, in other programming languages, this is referred to as an array. Okay? Yeah. So watch. So I can just create a list of data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I can just say for every num in my list, and then it just loops through my list. So the first time num is 1, the second time num is 2, third num is 3, and it'll just loop over it. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My list could also be a list of names. So we could just say names equals Bob, Susie, James, and then here we'll just say for every name in names, because generally you want, this can be anything you want, but you generally want it to represent a singular of what each thing it's looping over is. So this is a list of names, so if my list is called names, then each individual item is a name. So that's why that just makes it easier to read. Again, variable names are just variable names. You can call them whatever you want, but you want to make sure that it's informative. Okay, so there we see Bob, Susie, James. Okay, cool. So that's the list. The list is a very flexible type. You can put it, I think you can just add stuff as much as you want. It can be any kind of data type. It's basically like an array in JavaScript if you're familiar with JavaScript. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some more time with the list and other collections of the other ways of collecting data in the next video, and we'll go more in depth about that. So I'll see you guys there.